Okay, welcome everybody to the Netivot Shalom Shir, weekly Shir. We're going to talk about one of the Netivot Shalom's Torahs on this week's Parsha, which is Pinchas. And actually, 2 years ago, we did the first part of this Torah, so I'm now doing the next part. And hopefully you have a screen share. You can see on the screen, starting with Beit. It's like the middle, right? Okay, so this was the Torah that talks about the blessing of peace. That's actually at the beginning. It's called Birchat HaShalom. We know that at the end of last week's parsha, Pinchas, the son of Elazar, son of Aaron Hakohen, grandson of Aaron Hakohen, took it upon himself to save the honor of Bnei Yisrael, to save the honor of Hashem, and to act against those who were publicly defaming God's name by engaging in immoral acts, as well as avodah zarah. And the reward for that is this week's Parsha Pinchas. And Hashem says to Pinchas that he will give Pinchas the covenant of peace, meaning that he and his descendants will be Kohanim. And a Kohen always has to, when a Kohen blesses Bnei Yisrael, he has to bless them by with love. And the halacha is if a Kohen gets up to give the Birchas Kohanim, and he doesn't like somebody in the congregation, or they don't like him, he cannot give the bracha. So the blessing of Pinchas and of the Kohanim was one of peace. And now this Netivot Shalom is going to talk about, it's a continuation of what we did 2 years ago, and starting with Beit. What area? 2 years ago, so we're going to continue with that. Let's read what the Netivot Shalom says, and this is a continuation of the first part of the Netivot Shalom that is entitled Birchas HaShalom, and just talks about the blessing of peace. So this is just another way of looking at the blessing of peace that was given to Pinchas. So Yesh Lahosif B'zeh Od, we can add something else to this. Hine Kamot Motzino Ba'flaga Gedola Midas HaShalom. Just as we find that there's great division, the midah, the quality of peace. So too we find a great bunch of division in the defect of machlokas, of fighting. In the Gemara Yoma, the sages tell us, Shemikdash Rishon Charav Bavon Avodah Zarah Gilui Arayos V'Shvichas Damim. The first Beis Hamikdash was destroyed for the violation of 3 cardinal sins: the sin of avodah zarah, idol worship, the sin of immorality, and the sin of bloodshed, of murder. Mikdash Sheni, but the second Beis Hamikdash, Charab B'nei Sinas Chinam, was destroyed because of baseless hatred. So the Netivot Shalom was on to say, he says, Shalachora, Bishloma Avodah Zarah Gilui Arayos V'Shvichas Damim. I can understand these 3 cardinal sins of idol worship, immorality, and bloodshed. Hem ha'averot ha'chamurot shebatorah. These are the strictest kind of sins that you can do in the Torah. Shedina b'cherav al yavor. Because the halacha is that you should better be killed Let yourself be killed rather than violate any of these three things. And that's the only one of the negative commandments in the Torah that says, ad kedei kach, you have to be willing to sacrifice your life for. And we unfortunately have seen Mesiras Nefesh, sacrifices of the life of Jews over the centuries. Doesn't mean they only sacrifice their lives for that, but that's where it's mandatory to do it. Other times, if a situation is going to result in a chilul Hashem, that's also a situation where you can choose to be killed rather than do what you're asked to do. But sinas chinam, baseless hatred, it's only a negative commandment. And what's the punishment for negative commandments? You violate a negative commandment. The punishment is typically malchus. If you're judged by the court to be guilty of violating a lo saseh, you get lashes. You don't get the death penalty. And it's a lo saseh of shalot tisnes v'achich b'levavecha. It says you shouldn't hate your brother in your heart. How is it possible that because of this, the Beis Hamikdash is destroyed? The Gemara also says in Gemara Yoma, there's been a long time, there's been a long time that Bnei Yisrael has been suffering in exile, in a time where there doesn't seem to be any end to it. In all of this suffering in exile, machmas hapagam shel sinas chinam, is because of the pagam, the defect of hatred without any reason, baseless hatred. The Maral writes, Sha'olam hazeh hu alma the pruda. This world is a world of separation. U'mesugo machlokos, and it's fit because there's separation with people. It's a good breeding ground for machlokos, for disputes. Umiyad v'tchilas yimei ha'olam. Right away, we know that at the beginning of the world, at the beginning of the days of the world, when man was first on the world, you already had the fight, machlokas, between Cain and Abel. Shebasofo harag Cain es Hevel. In the end, Cain killed Hevel. Cain killed Abel. And that started with the machlokas because there was a machlokas caused by the jealousy of Cain, that Hashem looked more favorably at the offering of Hevel because it was offering with his full heart, that he took the best of whatever he offered, whereas Cain just wanted to give an offering, took the worst. So it was that machlokas started by him being jealous of his brother. Because of the tone biur, we have to explain this. What is the greatness of this quality of shalom, of peace? And what is the great defect of a machlokas, of fighting? Therefore, we could say, Midas HaShalom einenu inyan shlili b'lvad shel ha'eder machlokas. Shalom doesn't mean only being able to stay away from machlokas. Elohei madrega chayavit na'alam yod. It's a higher level that you have to strive to get to, that you're duty bound to get to this higher level. And we know And we say it. We say in the Shemot Esra, Oser Shalom Imromov. God makes peace in the higher places. Hu Yaseh Shalom Aleinu. He should make peace for us. I skipped some language. I'm sorry. I got to back up. There's no fighting up above. Ella, Shalom Madrega Chavis Elite Yoter. It's a higher level you have to aspire to. Shekol Kiyum Habriya Tali Shalom. The whole continuation of creation is dependent on Shalom, on peace. This is where we ask for the Shemot Esra. Oser Shalom Imromov, he who makes peace up above, who Yaseh Shalom Aleinu, should make peace for us. Binyanu, the Hidei Tachlis Habriya, the whole purpose of creation, Shivor HaKadosh Baruch Hu Olam, that when God created the world, he ain't od milvado, was for people to know that there is nothing in this world, ain't od milvado, nothing in this world except Hashem. She'ain shum mitzios, there's no reality, v'shum koach zula kocha yisbarach. There's no reality, there's no power against the power of Hashem. And therefore, if you realize that, you realize that everything comes from Hashem, you won't be trying to engage in machlokas. Because machlokas comes from, as we've said this in past, it comes from oftentimes from a feeling of ego. I know more than you. So we have to understand that we have to get to the point where we realize, ain't od milvado, there's no power except that of Hashem. Commando Amar B'Sifrei HaKodesh says in the holy books, Shekol HaNivroim, all of the creation, min hadomem, from the inanimate objects, Vatsomeach, and things that grow, Balei Chayim, living things, Medabrim, people that can speak, Elam Kol Zechut Kiyum, they have no merit to live, Bilti Kocho Yisborach, except from the power of God. Their only power of living comes from the power of God. Amachaya Osam, who gives life to these people or things, as it says, you give life to everything. This is what the sentence means. We say every day in the tefillah, Shema Yisrael, Hashem Elokeinu, Hashem Echad. Hear, O Israel, Hashem is our God, Hashem is one. Perush, Shekoach Echad, that means that the power of one, Yesh B'chol Habriya, is in all of creation. Hu HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and that is Hashem. You can't find any other power except the power of one, the power of Hashem. The defect of creation is also in this quality. Sha'olam nira ba'olam nifrad. The world looks like a world where everything is separate. Everybody is standing by himself. But tikkun hagomor, and the complete repair of this, the complete tikkun of this, yibakach, will be with this sheyiskala, when people realize ki ein od milvado, that there is nothing else but Hashem. Umala horetz deya, and the whole world is filled with the knowledge of Hashem. Hashem. Deya miloshim deveku. The word deya, knowledge, comes from the word of cleaving. The cost of Adam Yad, it says, and man knew meaning he was cleaving to his wife. Umal haaretz, Dea, the world is full of knowledge. Perush, Shekulam Yu Devukim L'Shem Yisborach, means that everybody should be cleaving, closely connected to God. V'chulam Yodu, and everybody will know once they have that connection, Hashem Elokeinu Hashem Echad, that God is our God and God is one. Ein shum dor rakov, there's no thing or power, acher, other. Zulat kocho yisborach, no other power other than the power of God. Zeyu tikkun habriya, this is the tikkun for whole creation. This is the repair to correct all the problems of the creation. Not the problems of creation, but the problems of those who live in this creation, the problem of those who are created. Dargas Shalom, this is the path of peace. Shekol habriyu muchedes, that all the creation should be united. Uvatla Hashem Yisborach, and should nullify themselves to God, Amachaya as Kulam, who sustains and gives life to all of us. And the opposite of shalom is the opposite of peace is fighting. Novat mikach, it flows from this. Shekol echad hu koach nifrad, means that everybody has their own separate power. The issues nifradet and the separate egos. Hepech halachtus, their ego is the opposite of this achtus that we need, shamidas hashalom, of the quality of shalom. The koach hashalom hu hayidei sheYisrael buachtim yachad. The power of shalom is when Jews are united together. Uchmamar tzadikim shehavas Yisrael hu skula lavas Hashem. The tzadikim say that the love of Israel, love of your fellow Jew, is a segula, helps you to be able to love Hashem. I think I said in last week's year, maybe one of the day between the last couple of weeks. Somebody once asked about Shem Tov, how can a human being love Hashem? And he says, love your fellow man, then you'll love Hashem. That's what this is talking about here. It's not just that this enables you, this is like a segula, it's a prize, but it's a way of teaching you that through the love of Bnei Yisrael, that you are nullifying yourself to the other. And you're not sticking with your own personal ego, maybe Hashem, when you can get out of your ego and step into somebody else's shoes, have empathy with somebody else, understand what they're going through, that brings you to Ahavas Hashem. Lios betelim Hashem Yisborach, b'chinas ein od milvado, to the point that you are nullifying everything except to Hashem, realizing that ein od milvado, there is nothing but Hashem. She'em shum kolav zulas Yisborach, there's no power except Hashem. Chman Omer, as we say in the Shmona Esra on Mincha and Shabbos, Ato Echad, you are one, V'shimcha Echad, and your name is one. V'ika Amcha Yisrael, who is like unto you, O Israel? Goy Echad B'aretz, one nation in the world. Shekasher Yisrael Moachdim Ke'echad. Zeh, when the Jews are united like one, Mevim, the word's cut off, I'm sorry. It brings them to being connected to God, in the aspect of you are one and your name is one. With this is fulfilled the purpose of creation. Shu Hashem Elokeinu Hashem Echad. God is our God. God is one. V'akol batel v'vutel elav yisborach. And everything is nullified next to Hashem. Mishum kach, and because of this, goremet hamachlokas lechorban holam. We can see that the opposite of this, machlokas, can cause the destruction of the whole world. Even though from the standpoint of a sin, it's only a negative commandment. But the inner part of any machlokas is that it destroys the world. This is the opposite of the remedy for creation that we need to repair the creation. Show you, Hashem Elokeinu Hashem Echad. God is our God. God is one. There's none beside Him. Therefore, the second base of Mikdash was destroyed because of baseless hatred. Uvazeh yesh lefarish Mamar Hillel, and we can understand what Hillel said, as is quoted in the Pirkei Avos. Hevi v'talmidav shel Aharon. You should strive to be like the students of Aharon. Ohev Shalom, loving peace. And it's not enough to love peace. Not enough to love peace. You can just sit in your house and say, I love peace. No. Rodev Shalom, running after peace. You got to take an active role in pursuing peace. Ohev es habrios. That's the key. Loving your fellow man. Umakarban laTorah, and bringing them closer to Torah. Aharon ohev shalom. Aharon was the epitome of somebody who loved peace. Rodev shalom, and pursued peace. Because he went out, whenever there was a dispute, he would go to the people, try to resolve the dispute, get them to make up with one another. Lorak mitzad malaso v'sidkoso, not only because of his great qualities and righteousness, el kechelek minakuna, it's a part of the kahuna. Aaron is a Kohen, he's a part of the kahuna. Shetafkid HaKohen HaGadol, what was the purpose of the high priest? The Kohen Gadol was Lakasher is Yisrael, Laviyam Shever Shemayim, to bind, to get children of Israel closer to their Father in heaven. Shubatelim Elav Yisporach, that they should nullify themselves to God. And therefore, he was not only a lover of peace, but a pursuer of peace. Levatel es hapiru beinehem, to nullify the separation between them, and to unify their hearts. To this, they would come closer to Hashem. For Colossian, Isa, Masechta Derech Eretz Zuta, it says, "Umatil Shalom ben Yisrael Aviyam Shavishmayim." He would bring peace between Bnei Israel and our Father in heaven. Of the Torah's Torah's Delio Rabbah, Aaron Hakohen Gadol Shoyim Ischavin Laharbos Shalom Olam. He was a Kohen Gadol because his job was to increase peace in the world. Bnei Yisrael Laviyat Shavishmayim, between Bnei Yisrael, the children of Israel, and their Father in heaven. Between one man and his next, and the next man, one man and his friend. This is what says in Pinchas. Therefore God says, behold, I'm giving you the covenant of peace. And you and your children after you, Bris Kahuna Solom, will have the covenant of the priesthood forever. Because of the blessing of peace, Shenitna lo, that was given to him, Nichlal gam shekohanim tamshich halah, would be continued with the Kohanim, and it would be for them and their children afterwards. Shetafkid, let me go back where perhaps you can see it. Right over here. Shetafkid Kohanim, who Oder Yisrael, sorry. The purpose of the Kohanim is to awaken up Bnei Israel, Hayidei HaShalom Bo'achdus, through peace and unity, Shiu B'Teilim Udvokim Bo Yisporach, that they will be nullify and cleave to Hashem. Pinchas Ze Eliyahu, and it says that Pinchas really is the neshama of Eliyahu Hanavi. Shinemar, it says, I am sending before you Eliyahu Hanavi, Lifnei bo yom Hashem hagadol banor, before the great and fearful day comes, before the coming of Mashiach. Shu Yikaras Hagula, he will bring close to the redemption. Shunyanu Shalom, the purpose, the aspect of Shalom, of peace, Shizet Tachlis Habriya, that is the purpose of creation, the Tikkun Olam, and the repair of the world. That's why in the blessing of Kohanim, they make a blessing. Asher Kiddishanu B'Kedushasu Shel Aharon, you've made us holy by the holiness of Aharon. With Sivana, you've commanded us, Levorech Hasam Yisrael, to bless the children of Israel. The key word is the next word that I mentioned before, Ahava, with love. Isa, and it's held, it's Shirak, Im Yesh Ahava, Beino Uvein Hamisvorchim, Mutro Lebrachim. Only way a Kohen is allowed to give the bracha of a Berachas Kohanim is if in fact there is love between him and the people that he's blessing. If this love is not present, he's not allowed to give a bracha. The whole aspect of the blessing by the Kohanim is lahamshich havas hava v'shalom Yisrael, is to continue love and peace in Bnei Yisrael. Ukasher Yisrael muchadim, when Bnei Yisrael are unified as one, when they're unified as one, then they are cleaving to Hashem. They have a close relationship with Hashem. And just as before we receive the Torah, the way we receive the Torah, as it says, they camped there singular next to the mountain. They were all unified. It was that unity that enabled Bnei Israel to receive the Torah. This is why Hillel says, be of the students of Aharon, Oev Shalom, Barodev Shalom, to love peace and to pursue peace. Kibamidas HaShalom, Talui, because in the quality of peace, Ikar Tachlis Habriya, is found the real purpose of creation. Sheyeh ain't od Bovados, that there's no other power than God. Shiakiru, they will recognize, viedu, and understand. She'ein shum bo koach b'olam, there is no power in the world. Zulat Hashem Elokeinu Hashem Echad, except Hashem is our God and Hashem is one. V'chein HaShabbos. Shura Lemidas HaShalom. Shabbos is also connected to the aspect of peace. Ki Shabbos mevia Yehudi lebekus b'Hashem. Shabbos brings a Jew to getting closer to Hashem. On the cusp of Beini Bnei Israel Osi the Olam. As it's written, between me and Bnei Israel, this will be a sign forever. Israel im Hashem Yisborach, and the Bnei Israel will come together with God and will nullify themselves to God. Shiduim, they will know, she'ein v'nimtza shum koach. They'll know that there is no power to be found, ela kochan yisborach amachayas kolam. Only the power of Hashem that sustains everybody. It talks about Shabbos is an os between Bnei Israel and God, a sign. But it's more than that. It's like Hashem is putting us in a bubble of Kedusha, a bubble of holiness, a bubble where we can have the achdus that we need to be close to Hashem, a bubble where we're really with Hashem. That's why Shabbos is called Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat Shalom, we say to people. Shabbat Shalom u'mevorach. Shumidas HaShalom tachlis habriya, because the quality of Shalom is the whole purpose of creation. Hanimtza, it's found, ki tachlis habriya, the purpose of creation, binyan Beis Hamikdash, and the rebuilding of the Beis Hamikdash, v'charavnu, and the destruction of it. Hakol toloi b'midas HaShalom. Everything depends on the quality of peace. Chazal tell us in the Gemara Yerushalmi, Kol shelo nivna Beis Hamikdash b'yamav. Anybody who doesn't rebuild the Beis Hamikdash in his days, during his lifetime, ilu nechrav b'yamav. It's like it was destroyed in his days. Because every act of love, every act of shalom that we do is ilu adding a brick to the Beis Hamikdash. And contrary, every act of machlokas is taking a brick away. Yehudim einu chayim rak im ha'avar. The Jews don't live only in the past, ela im ha'hova v'ha'atid. The Jews live in the present and the future. Ba'avoda b'yamim elu, and the work that we have to do in these days of the Shabbat HaMatzorim, which are coming up starting next week with Shiva Asher B'Tammuz, the 3 weeks before Tisha B'Av. This work that we have to do is Yehudim Yisachtu, the Jews have to get together, have to unite. Yudevekim Beinehem Ke'echad, they have to cleave to each other as one. That's an important message that, it's not the fasting that is important. It's not the deprivation of of things that you can't do, listening to live music, other prohibitions during the 3 weeks. That's not the important thing. The important thing is the connection between you and your fellow Jew. That's the important thing. We want to rebuild the Beis Hamikdash. We want to make Hashem no longer homeless. That's what we have to do. So whatever the other things are, maybe they'll help you do it. But you have to never lose focus of the main thing. Somebody wants to have a machlokas, don't let him. Turn it into a peaceful transaction. This will say be cleaving to your fellow human being, being attached to another person, knowing what their feelings are, paying attention to their feelings. That brings you to closeness with Hashem. And through this, we will fulfill the purpose of creation, Tikun Hagamar, which is the complete tikkun, the complete repair, maybe Levias Mashiach, that will bring us to the coming of Mashiach. Very, very timely words. And we shouldn't be discouraged because we live at a time where there's so much hatred in the world. And, you can think, what can I do? Just throw up my hands. I can't do anything about it. The answer is, we can each do something. each of us can do our own bit. If we can avoid machlokas ourselves with somebody, that's a positive step forward. If we can go beyond that and bring shalom to somebody else, that's a further step. You know, it is said that who is a complete person? Somebody who is shalom ba'atzmo, is complete in himself, shalom b'chaveiro, shalom, complete, at peace with his friends, the shalom leborov and the creation, the shalom la'kadosh baruch hu, and has peace with God. Those are the three things we can work to achieve. So as we go into the 3 weeks, we should look at them as 3 terrible weeks, sad weeks. We should look at them as an opportunity to do our bit, to add our bricks to the new Beis HaMikdash, so that hopefully we won't have to go through Tisha B'Av this year. We'll have enough bricks in that Beis HaMikdash that it'll be rebuilt and Mashiach will be here, and that'll be the end of it. We'll be all having a great meal on Tisha B'Av. Anyway, any comments before I turn the recording off? I hope I recorded it. Did I record it? I think I recorded it. I did. Any comments before I turn it off? Okay.